which one was more important, or did you say we're both important?
Yes, which is more important?
Thank you. Okay, he did. So you just totally mischaracterized Conor's point there. You did. You did.
Is it?
Do you think that Nazis can have a positive influence in our media sphere to push people?
If I could, you mean logically possible, then yes.
Okay, wait, hold on. Do you think that there might be at least one person that could help the Democratic Party or help people get elected? By the way, identify as a Nazi right now. Also, let's say, by the way, AOC identifies as a Nazi right now. How many people would come out of that conversation thinking, wow, Destiny and Myron seem to agree on quite a bit?
And how many people would come out of my conversation and think, careful!
You got yourself, because you knew how much, you knew how foolish you were! Oh my God! Exposed in 8K, 120 FPS, 120 frame rate, 240 refresh rate, on monitor, broadcasting live, all over the fucking world, exposed!
So, fellas, we are living in a post-truth society going through an epistemological revolution. You see, to the commie and their crypto sympathizers, words have purpose, not meaning. And once you understand that, you begin to understand the intent behind their words, which is always obfuscation, to further the revolution. So first I'm going to show you how words mean nothing, then I'm going to show you people debating. Why would I do that? Because although absurd and ridiculous, this formulates and shapes political thought in society, and politics becomes very real. But let me spit on it first before I shove the balls in behind it. Now, the left has no limiting principles. Everything is opportunistic. For example, did Destiny think that Nick Fuentes was a Nazi?
Do you stand by your statement of 10 seconds ago he would commit genocide if he came to power?
If Fuentes was in power, there's a chance. I don't know 100%. But when I'm describing...
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't care. I'm not trying to divine what's inside of his head. I'm trying to deal with the rhetoric that he delivers to his fans and the positions that he states that I can have a tangible disagreement with, and the things that his fans say. That's what I'm interested in. Fuentes doesn't at least openly advocate for that anymore. So when you say that, you automatically lose anybody that's part of his movement. That might be like a covert thing that they're pushing for, or maybe if he had his perfect fucking world, but that's not what a thing they talk about anymore.
Let me explain the mechanism by which I lose somebody who's part of his movement. I guess you're arguing that his fans are not also Nazis.
I don't like to use the word Nazi because I don't know what the fuck anybody means when they say that anymore.
Okay, so by the laws of logic, Sam Hyde, according to Destiny, is probably like a crypto-fascist, right? Quasi-fascist, some sort of flavor like that. Far right, you know?
Maybe I can ask you this. Do you think that calling everyone you disagree with a Nazi reduces your ability to achieve the explicit or implicit goals you may have for advancing the political stability of our nation?
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I get really triggered when people on the left call everybody a Nazi, yeah.
And you think Sam Hyde is a Nazi?
Undoubtedly. There's no reasonable person can disagree. It just has to do with how...
Really? I disagree.
Because you either lack the backing, you're a Nazi and you don't reveal it, or you didn't...
Right.
Yeah,
so yes, that's what you asked me the first time.
Sure. I'm 100% confident though, but
Words mean absolutely nothing. So let's flip it. Let me give you a little sneak peek at the debate we're going to watch when Destiny says that Pisco's own co-host is a Marxist Leninist, and then show a clip of her being outwardly communist, but not necessarily Marxist Leninist. And let's see how Pisco handles that.
Wait, my co-host is Marxist Leninist?
For Aaron as an ML, yes. That's like where your audience is the direction they're going, yes.
You understand that Aaron says she's not a Marxist Leninist. Do you agree with that?
I don't identify people's... You know that Trump doesn't call himself a fascist, right?
Yeah, so
what a retarded fucking thing to say.
No,
disagreement.
I'm not.
Okay, so you're not a socialist.
No, I'm not a socialist.
Okay,
I'm a communist. That's why it says commie.
I'm not a socialist, I'm a communist.
I can't tell.
What's the
difference?
Explain to it.
I actually feel like mainstream people who call themselves socialists are actually communists, but they're too scared to say that they're communists, so they call themselves a socialist because right now that's kind of like where the cultural zeitgeist is permissible of.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're good. Okay, I'm good on that. I'm good on that one. I'm good. I'm ready for a Pisco to soy out for the next 5 minutes.
Hold on. I have to stop.
Wait,
is that sufficient evidence to you?
No, wait.
Her saying I'm a commie is not sufficient evidence that she's a communist.
The answer is I know that Aaron says she's a commie, and Steven, you can tell he's fucking soying the fuck out because I acknowledge that Aaron has said that she's a commie. It's a position she's had. The question wasn't is she a commie or not? And
are you because people just project onto it whatever they want.
Are you in favor of abolishing private property?
Oh yeah, I am.
Okay, well that's pretty simple.
You say these things and you have this tone of voice. It's like
you can't tell
smirk. So I can't tell if you're being
sarcastic
or not.
She's so serious.
I know.
No, I'm dead serious on that one. I am. But I guess
Is this what we wanted to see?
Yeah. What's the contradiction there?
I don't know. All right, what's the
There's
next
no
topic?
contradiction, right? Wait. So you understand, as part of your definition, right?
Of course they can call anyone on the right a Nazi to the point of getting people fired and shutting down venues so they can't perform shows. But when it comes to communists that call themselves communists, well, let's not be too hasty. It's just a communist, not a Marxist Leninist. How much do you want to bet if somebody wasn't ML, then it's still okay? It's the classic strategy of, it's not happening, and if it is, it's fine. But let's slap this thing's ass and ride the wave in. Let's start with Econoboi, who is the good cop on the commie side. His strategy is to broaden socialism as widely as possible to make it seem like there's way more socialists than there actually are, while somehow calling himself a right-wing socialist.
Capitalism, socialism is a diverse universe of people. There's a lot of people who call themselves socialists. Some of them are Marxist Leninists. Some of them are like what you might call like moderate, like right-wing socialists, I guess like me, who say that we should just collectivize the ownership of production.
The only diversity with socialists is a diversity of tactics. Words mean nothing. So why would he say that? Well, he gets to appear as the palatable moderate socialist while sweeping for any and all communists and far-left extremists. Let's get to the intros.
I hand the mic first to Econoboi, give his thoughts, and then we'll just kind of go around. Econoboi, start us off.
So, for those listening, the topic is courting the far left. I take that to be essentially a political and strategic discussion about whether or not and how exactly we should or should not court the far left. And the way that I think of the far left, there's a lot of polls on this. Based on all the research that I was able to do, about 10% of people that vote for Democrats call themselves socialist, and about another 10% call themselves extremely liberal. So if we were to think Kamala got about 49% of the vote, that's to say that something like 10% of those people are either extremely liberal or socialist by their self-identification.
And just like that, roughly 20% of the left is socialist or almost socialist. See how easy that is? Now, his debate partner, Pisco, if Econoboi is the good cop, then obviously Pisco is the evil, shrew, rotting hog's carcass cop, who is too insufferable to even make a video on. His strategy is to lie constantly. He gets off at getting caught lying. He doesn't even know what words mean. This is just his intro.
I'm going to hand the mic next to Pisco. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it obviously depends on what you mean by court and what you mean by the far left. If by far left you mean enough coalition, if what you mean by far left includes those people. Does exclude mean invite them, don't invite them to create a party platform? Does exclude mean not interact with them in any respect? I certainly wouldn't want to incorporate any Marxist Leninist ideas into the Democratic platform if that's what's being meant by courting the voters or courting the far left.
I just want to know the difference between a communist and a Marxist Leninist to Pisco. But I never thought I'd say this. We're gonna get a breath of fresh air with Conor, who of course looks good compared to everybody involved when these are the people that are involved.
Let's give it first to Counterpoints. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my issue with this whole thing is that there are socialists, which I define, I think, in a good faith way, for the decommodification of basic human need and workers owning the means of production. There are also communists who believe that the end result of our material analysis should be a moneyless, stateless, classless society. I think these people exist. I think they have clout. I think they have influence. And I would use specific examples in our sphere of influence, like Erin or Straight Raid, who says that she's a communist. I would use the examples like Hasan Piker, who I just watched earlier today, is effectively holding hands with Marxist Leninists and saying that he is a Marxist Leninist. He's just, playing softy with the Social Democrats and the Democratic Socialists. That way he can get clout and influence and then radicalize them down a funnel. But if MLs are a part of the coalition, you're losing people. You're being politically ineffective. That's my argument.
Okay, thank you for being here. And
I mean, at this point, you can really imagine how the Nazis in brown shirts took over an area. Like, there's such open and obvious communist support in society right now, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, my mom's great. She's a saint. She wouldn't have been putting anyone into an oven. She would have taken cookies out of the oven and given them to the people putting people in the ovens. She wants to go along to get along. Bless her heart. Everyone just wants things to be normal and, try noticing communism and see what happens to you, you Nazi. But let's cap it off with Destiny, who really just encapsulates the entire debate in his intro.
Last but certainly not least, Destiny, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think that when I was making the rounds debating Nazis in 2016 to 2018, one of the most common things that I heard from kind of like the centrists that basically gave more credence to all of the far right ideas was point to where I support this. Show me where I said that I'm racist. Show me where I said that I hate Jewish people, or I'm anti-Semitic, or I'm, trying to be a white supremacist. And there was always this like annoying fight that I would have to do where in order to start debating the Nazis, I'd have to chew through all of these epic centrists first who would say, well, I'm just a classical liberal. I'm Sargon of Akkad. I'm not actually a white supremacist. I just happen to give cover for all of these people. I don't think Econoboi or Pisco or Josiah or any of these other people, I don't think they're becoming tankies or anything like that. I just think there's a very annoying cover that's given to a lot of these people where there's like, we can 100% discern and decipher every single intention that Donald Trump has. We have no problem calling him a fascist outright. But then when you have people that hate the Democrats, that shit on our candidates, that attack everybody on our side constantly, we're like, well, I don't know what they really think or how they really feel. Or when it comes to people like Hasan, like even earlier today in my subreddit, Econoboi, when asked about supporting Hasan, will say things like, well, I don't think I necessarily agree with him on everything. He says, I don't have a generally positive view of Hasan, and I think I would flatly agree with many of the criticisms levied at Hasan. That's just in my mind, even though it seems like there's some kind of separation there. That's just a wild statement to make from somebody who openly supports terrorist groups that kill civilians, or openly supports enemies of the United States, or openly supports the subversive propagandizing of our entire political party to hijack the entire movement to destroy, if not the Democratic Party, maybe even all of the entire United States of America. So,
you ever notice how Destiny is incredibly animated when talking about January 6th and Trump? But when it comes to massive influencers on the left like Hasan, saying he's a communist, lying about not being a communist, publicly stating he's appearing more moderate to radicalize young people into being commies while constantly struggle sessioning Democrats and shaming them into being more and more radical, Destiny all of a sudden doesn't have that same fire under his ass. He has to slowly watch commies infiltrate the Democrats in broad daylight, and there's nothing he can do about it. But I mean, let's be fair though. Sometimes the right does make some outlandish associations of communism on the left. Like when Charlie Kirk was like, progressive tax was in the Communist Manifesto, so it's communist. The Communist Manifesto is the authority on communism, don't you think? We shouldn't do that. You just sound like an insane person when you say that.
Okay, so
because here's where we're going to run into the problem, because nothing that you just said there was socialist, and there's this game that's played where leftists...
Destiny, you're wrong about that. You're completely wrong.
15 an hour is socialist?
Okay, do you think a progressive income tax is socialist?
Not necessarily, no.
Right. So the Communist Manifesto proposed a progressive income tax, right? So
does that make it a socialist policy?
I would say, generally speaking, that the Communist Manifesto, the manifesto of the Communist Party, like it probably is something of an authority on what it means to be a communist.
I fibbed. I'm pretty sure this is what the left would call a right-wing talking point. Now that there's a public groundswell of support after the Democratic Party deliberately tore itself down, now we're back to socialism is when the government does stuff. That's right, fellas. All those arguments you used in 2016 about Marxist infiltration in the government, and they called you a crazy conspiracy theorist and told you to read Marx, and you said, I did read Marx. Here's what he said about a progressive tax. And then they would block you? Yeah, now they're using all of those arguments a decade later. Now that New York City might get a socialist mayor, anything the government does that they like is now socialist. But that's barely even tarded compared to what I'm gonna show you next. We all know how Pisco wants nothing to do with MLs, nothing to do with Marxist Leninists, okay? So now we're gonna talk about the Vanguard, who he had on the show. Let me show you a video from 7 months ago I did on the Vanguard. I just love how I somehow know that they're Marxist Leninists, but none of these people do. I just find that very interesting. He's just taking away subscribers from the Young Turks and trying to give them to other progressive channels, like the Vanguard. He wants those subscribers to go to a progressive channel, not a Marxist channel.
And seriously, shout out to Madame Blueberry, the VeggieTales episode. That is an anti-capitalist tome. That's like Marx for children, bro. That shit radicalized me from an early age.
So they're called the Vanguard. Well, Vanguardism in Leninist struggle is a strategy where the most class-conscious members of the working class, known as the Revolutionary Vanguard, led institutions to advance communist goals. So their show is named after, again, communist propaganda. Just like Hasan's show on the Young Turks Network, and now progressives are encouraging progressives to subscribe to a more progressive platform like the Vanguard, which is communist propaganda. Not just communist propaganda, but specifically Marxist Leninist communist propaganda. So we're about to see a war of the tards right now, okay? I'm actually gonna have to interject in this compilation profusely to really hammer home the meta-tardation.
So, the Vanguard, I have no idea what their politics are. I would frankly love to speak to them specifically about their politics. But if MLs are a part of the coalition, you're losing people.
Okay, well, Conor's tarded because you should obviously know by the name Vanguard what they are. Imagine if anyone on the right wing had anything even remotely close to any far-right word at all whatsoever. The Vanguard. Lenin's Vanguard, Marxist Leninist. It's very direct.
Chart social democratic Scandinavian policies, and I think they're using the term socialism backdoor in order to rehabilitate the image of this. And not just that, Hasan Piker and plenty of far lefties, plenty of MLs, probably the Vanguard as well, they're ecstatic that this is happening.
Okay, good. The Vanguard is probably happy that a slow subversion is happening on the left to push people further left. The trees are scraping the bottom of the plane, but I think he's pulling the thing up.
So if you look at the 20th century, there's something called Vanguard Marxism or Marxist Leninism. And they have these things called Vanguard parties that take over countries and turn them into shitholes. And so we have people like Hakim, Second Thought, Hasan Piker, who tried to sweep this history away. No, I'm telling you the truth. And these are the people
you're just monologuing, old man.
Econoboi and you are useful idiots for.
No.
Never mind, we're nosediving. Conor is now using the word Vanguard to describe Marxist-Leninists and how damaging they are, while not necessarily knowing the politics of the Vanguard, even after the host makes a joke about the Vanguard being the Vanguard.
Hakim, Second Thought, Hasan Piker, who tried to...
Then Conor calls the two crypto commies useful idiots for allowing extremists to push the left further left. Which is true, but Conor is also a useful idiot for working for Progressive Victory, an organization that canvassed to get socialists elected in government, including communist Zorhan Mamdani.
So are you paid by Progressive Victory?
Yes.
And you have been since October of last year?
Yes. They made an offer, and I was like, why the f would you pay me that much? For that amount of money, I would work 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week.
He has a history of getting paid to try to get socialists elected in government. You can't write this stuff. We all lose. There's no good guys here. But it gets worse. Now let's see how the crypto commies defend having the Vanguard on and not addressing any of their extremist views at all whatsoever.
That they are doing this. They call themselves the Vanguard. Why do you think they call themselves the Vanguard, Econoboi? Why do you think they chose that name?
Every single person on this panel said, to the extent that there's evidence that people are doing that, they should not be included in the movement.
We condemn
you are condemning specifically the Vanguard today.
Wait, hang on. So I want to be clear about it. So the Vanguard, I haven't heard.
Shut up, Pisco. I'm asking Econoboi. Today on my show, you are condemning specifically the Vanguard.
What did they say?
I don't know what they said. Reference it.
Okay. So first of all, one clue is in the name, the Vanguard.
No, what did they do? What's the evidence?
What's their position?
I'm giving you evidence.
The level of evidence it takes to prove leftist YouTube channel, The Vanguard, are Marxist-Leninists can only be called crypto-communism. They get to play with a game genie, invincibility, clipping through walls, hopping on clouds. They get all the cheat codes. The right gets to play Ultra Nightmare Hardcore mode while our little brother is trying to steal the controller. No fast travel, and even mobs are bullet sponges. The left gets ultimate charitability, unlimited intellectualization, and differentiations of different types of people on the left, and how it's not that extreme. What does it take to be called the neo-Nazi on the right?
Donald Trump is also very old and a racist and a neo-Nazi.
But let's get to some prescriptions and possibilities. How can we peacefully implement socialism and not violently? Wouldn't that be a good conversation? Because it seems like every single time it ends up violently. But socialism, under Econoboi's definition, is Nordic capitalist welfare, to branch it out as widely as possible. So he goes back and forth between actual socialism and just soft pushes for socialism, but how could it be implemented peacefully?
Talked about like what socialism is, and you made it sound like the spooky thing of authoritarianism and all this. Would you concede that like a central tenet of socialism is the overthrow of the capital class, oftentimes via violent revolution? That is like a central tenet of socialism. No, that's not often. That like ideologically, definitionally, like in capitalism, you have private ownership where individuals can own firms and hire employees and scrape whatever excess,
I'll answer your question directly. Okay, So I would compare the question that you just asked similar to the development and emergence of liberalism. Liberalism developed and emerged across the planet, across different stages of development, across different points in time, and it did so in sometimes very violent ways and in sometimes through legislative reform. And so similar, you say, hey, I was just going to say, you say, hey, an ideal of socialism is the abolition of private property, to which I would say, generally speaking, certainly that's a core tenet of almost every socialist thinker across the history of socialism. But that is not a statement on the method by which we get to that final end state. The method is up for debate, and it has been debated.
So let's start to end it here. You know, I'm glad I live in this liberal Western society where Nazis can say, hey, we're just going to make a political party, and if people vote for us, okay, then cool. Sure, a faction of our party wants to subvert our country into a one-party state through violent revolution, and honestly, it's still up for debate. His answer leaves violence on the table. Their violence is still debatable. Their methods are still debatable. Meanwhile, our words are violence. You should have seen the darker eye I gave a neighbor by lashing him with a 1350 statistic. And fellas, on this channel, we are riding the waves of change, okay? A lot of this stuff is being called out, and it's an exciting time to be alive. A lot of us remember how there was nothing we could do 5 years ago, it was really hard to speak out against stuff. And now we get videos like this.
Notice how you feel safe in this community? Many people in here did not start off as like card-carrying Marxist Leninists, okay? As a matter of fact, no one does.
So I think that people are a lot more radical now. This is an unprecedented time to really get others on board. And you actually wrote about this, and it was a great video where you talked about, you know, someone has to do it.
Oh, jeez, guys, why does everybody think I'm a radical?
It really is extra satisfying when you know how bad it is. But this is the first time in history that we've had technology to fight back against these commies. And in order to value what you have, let's hear some words of wisdom from someone that wasn't so fortunate as us, and who had to scream from the rooftops in the most polite way possible before there was internet to tell us that you're not going crazy, you're in the majority, and you just don't know it. Have a good one.
General strategy employed is a political pincers movement, and these are the terms the communists use to describe it. A pincers movement applying political pressure from above and from below. Now, when they talk about pressure from above, they mean using their people and their influence within the very government marked for takeover to bring forward official recommendations for legislation. The recommendations, of course, are offered supposedly as solutions to national problems. But when passed into law, their only real effect is to vastly increase the power of government and to move the country that much closer toward the ultimate goal. The pressure from below, then, involves using their influence over the various mass membership organizations of the country to create the appearance of great popular support for these recommendations. Of course, the members of those organizations must never suspect that they're being used to promote the communist program. Now, the silent majority, the average person with no particular axe to grind, is caught right in the middle. He looks above and sees highly respected spokesmen for government calling for socialist legislation. He looks below and sees mobs of demonstrators shouting for the same thing. He says to himself, has everyone gone crazy, or is it me? Now, he's still in the majority, of course, but he doesn't know it. He thinks he's helplessly outnumbered, and he bows to what he thinks is the democratic will of the majority. All that remains, then, is for the duly elected legislators to place their own careers and political expediency above the best interests of the nation, to yield to this political pressure and pass the legislation into law. Then the whole process starts all over again with new recommendations from above, new demands from below, and finally, new capitulation in the halls of Congress. In this way, the nation can move to the left in giant strides until the ultimate goal of communism itself is reached entirely legally through the constitutional process and in the name of the nation.